AMD and Meta just struck a massive deal where Meta gonna deploy 6 gigawatts of GPUs and CPUs from AMD going forward. This might change the prospect of the AI landscape, and it also means a lot of revenue going in for AMD, and it probably will affect the future valuation of the company. If you want to know more about this game-changing deal, what it means both for Meta and for AMD and for the AI market as a whole, keep tight and follow this video going forward. So here's the newsroom of AMD, and you see the deal explained. So they will deploy 6 gigawatts of AMD CPUs, and the scale of that is so big it's hard to fathom. And I will come back to you maybe how much energy consumption that is compared to like everyday usage. They are partnering with AMD to rapidly scale their AI infrastructure, and they agree a definitive multi-year deal of these 6 gigawatts AMD Instinct GPUs and obviously CPUs also, because it's built on their AMD Helios rack scale systems. It's an architecture that have been announced earlier, and it's AMD's way of competing with custom-made rack scale systems closer to what NVIDIA are providing with the Blackwell systems, their CUDA system, and their NVLinks, etc. This is like AMD's answer to that. So they are getting closer to really compete with the very competitive products here, best in line. And I think the strength of the Helios rack scale system and AMD, what they deploys is the memory bandwidth and the inference. So this is a very competitive product, and you know the valuation of Nvidia and how much money that they have made on their GPUs offering. So if AMD can make this type of massive deals with hyperscalers and grab a lot of that market share, maybe 20-30%, the stock price will go sky high for AMD in the future. So I feel like this is a very interesting deal that has to be talked about a lot. So they are gonna start the second half of 2026, similar to what they're gonna do with the deal they had with OpenAI. So it will be a very busy second half of 2026 for AMD, and yeah, this is powered by custom AMD Instinct GPUs based on the MI 450 architecture. They are this line of AMD GPUs are really closing in on NVIDIA, and yeah, they will optimize the GPUs for Meta's workloads, working close together, and they will deepening their collaborations and align the GPUs, CPU, silicon system, and software roadmaps. And I feel like this is also shows us that AMD is in the market for custom-made GPUs, and they just not compete only with NVIDIA. I feel like back in the days we talked about TPUs and how Broadcom are gaining traction with their deep TPUs offering with Google, for example. And here we see also AMD doing the custom-made hyperscaler deals, and that means that they are in the game for the biggest amount of cash, and it's very important. And if you are a shareholder in AMD, I feel like this is the news that we have been waiting for, because we know that they have a lot of collaborations with Meta, but we haven't seen a deal with any of the biggest hyperscalers. We did see with OpenAI, but some people are feeling that OpenAI might have cash flow problems in the future, so the market hasn't really valued in that deal because they feel like, oh, are they really gonna get the amount of cash that are promised in this deal? With Meta, we know that Meta has a money glitch kind of market presence with their advertising businesses, so they will always have cash. So this money will end up at AMD. So keep that in mind. I think this will change the how Wall Street see AMD going forward and their models where they do their discounted cash flow analysis, etc. So at the start, the stock price, we have seen it react 8 or 9% on the news, but Wall Street will not make this stock just go sky high directly. They want to just keep adding this stock and make a lot of money on it. So just be patient. Yeah, to dive a bit deeper into the deal, because I've talked about you, it's a deal. This is not just Meta buying from AMD. So the deal is that is warrants that are connected to the deal. Let's see here if I warrant there. So, as a part of the agreement to further align strategic interest, AMD has issued Meta a performance based warrant for up to 160 million shares of AMD's common stock structured to vest as specific milestones associated with instant GPU shipments are achieved. So, AMD has to perform, they have to deliver the shipments, and yeah, obviously, if the stock price of AMD hits certain threshold and the products are delivered, Meta will own a part of AMD. So that's the part of the deal they aligned their interest. And I think that's a very smart way from AMD to get customers from other AI companies like Broadcom, etc. So this is Lisa Su talking with CNBC about the deal and why they did it. Before we continue, I will tell you how much this deal is worth because I did not mention it. What I've heard, this could be about 60 to 100 billion dollars in revenue going into AMD over a 4-year period. So that is a lot of money. And despite it being hard to really say what kind of price it is because we don't have that numbers, that is the research I have done, and I will use that kind of estimates when I project forward the type of revenues that AMD will have. So, of this video, we're gonna just walk through the valuation of AMD at the moment and where we might be heading, adding this deal to what we already see.
Makers expanding its partnership with Meta. They are long-standing partners, announcing a chip deal to deploy 6 gigawatts, don't worry, we'll get going into this, of computing power for Meta's AI data centers. And joining us now exclusively, I'm so thrilled that she's your AMD chair and CEO, Lisa Su, and a guest of the show. Lisa, first, I'm just going to offer you congratulations. This is a terrific deal, and I know that these kinds of things could never have happened without your hard work and the turn that you have engendered at AMD.
Well, first of all, Jim, great to be here. Thank you. It's a big day for AMD. We are super excited about this partnership, the expansion of our partnership with Meta, and it really is, another example of how the industry is investing big in AI infrastructure right now, and this is all about having the right technologies and the right partners, together building this, AI of the future.
I know you and Mark Zuckerberg talk a great deal. What do you think the game plan is for could be the super intelligence that we keep hearing? And what does it mean for the consumer? What does it mean for Meta? What does it mean for you?
Well, I think this is absolutely, first of all, Mark is a great partner, incredibly ambitious in what he wants to accomplish in the AI world. And this is about super intelligence. This is about bringing all of the capabilities of AI to all applications around the world. And frankly, we want to make it's AI everywhere for everyone. That's our motto. And I think we very much, share that with Meta. And what doing here is really helping them build out their infrastructure. We're taking our technology and really optimizing it for Meta's most important AI workloads. And we're doing this over the next 5 years, over multiple generations. And so it allows us to, keep building upon that flywheel and getting a, great product and great set of capabilities out at the end.
Okay, so NVIDIA has a deal. They report tomorrow. We'll probably find out more details, but it's a big deal. Billions of dollars. We know that not that long ago, Corning announced a very big deal. Neither of those deals involved Meta taking a share in them. Why is Meta taking a share in you?
Well, here's the thing that's important about AI infrastructure.
So just to explain, that is what warrants mean. I showed you before that this was 160 million warrants that will vest. So that could mean if the deployments are successful and the stock price of AMD gets higher, maybe all of these warrants will be kind of successful. And that means that the ownership for Meta could be up to 10% of AMD. And that means that Meta wants, with this deal, AMD to succeed. So they aligned their strategic interests. So keep that in mind. That's a very important part of the deal. That also means that if AMD, for example, gets $600 or $700 billion in market share, and they add that, and Meta will own 10% of that, the deal for Meta might even be like a net zero game. So this could be a win for both Meta and for AMD going forward and for shareholders of AMD. So I think it's a very interesting way of making sure that strategic alignments are together going forward, and also grabbing a part of that market share. And also, obviously, when they have these type of deals for AMD, they will work close with the most important companies out there, and they will get better and better and improve their offerings, and therefore being able to compete with the best companies out there, like Nvidia, like Broadcom, etc.
Sure, Jim. We are at a time and a place where the industry is moving so fast, and it's about how do we accelerate the rate and pace of innovation. And that's exactly what our strategic relationship with Meta is all about. We've been working really well together. Our teams are very much, working on sort of the future, but we wanted to take a big step function increase in that engagement. And, that's the beauty of this agreement that we're talking about. It is actually a win for AMD, it's a win for Meta, and it's a win for our shareholders in the sense that we're deploying at huge scale. I mean, 6 gigawatts is an incredible amount of compute. We are agreeing to optimize hardware, software, and systems together, and we're optimizing specifically for the most important AI workloads going forward. So I view this as really tying the company strategically. And when you think about, there are very few companies that can actually invest at the scale that we're talking about. It's a great partnership.
Lisa, I wanted to follow up on that particular area in terms of the warrants here. It's 160 million shares of AMD common structured to vest again at specific milestones associated with, as you write in the release, the GPU shipments and when they're achieved. You had a similar deal with OpenAI when you announced that. It was also 160 million. And some of your shareholders, a couple of them I spoke to this morning, said that's 20% of the company conceivably under warrant here. Why are you including these? I mean, you explained it to a certain extent, but the cynics would say, well, you have to because otherwise they're not going to buy your chips. How do you respond to that?
Oh, David, I would take a step back and say, look, we are sizing this AI accelerator market at, $1 trillion over the next 5 years. It's a huge, huge market. And we're actually at an inflection point where, I'm a big believer in there's no one size fits all. Frankly, you need a lot of different types of compute. AMD has all of the pieces. So we have CPUs, GPUs, we have the system infrastructure. And what we want to do is place bets on, who we think are going to be the winners in AI innovation going forward. So this is about strategic partnership. I think, everything that we do when we look at the structures of this is to ensure that it's a win-win. So everything is performance-based. There's a tremendous amount of revenue coming into AMD. Every gigawatt of compute is, double-digit billions of revenue to us. And then when you think about all of the ecosystem value in terms of increasing, and improving.
Did you hear that? Every gigawatt going in is double-digit revenues for us in terms of billions. So 1 gigawatt is at least 10 billions, probably more. And you did have 6 gigawatts in this deal. So that is at least 60 billion and up. So the deal is so big that it's hard to comprehend, especially if you know how much revenue AMD has had the latest 4 or 5 years. Compare that with the 2 deals they have now with OpenAI and Meta, and the recurring revenue they will have from the deals here. I think this company, when people see how much revenue they will have from the second part of 2026 and forward, especially when they start to deploy, because it's first when they really deploy the GPUs where they will gain that revenue. I think people really underestimate where this market share of AMD might be heading in terms of revenue if the valuation stays the same or even gets more juicy.
Improving our hardware ecosystem, our software ecosystem, and it really accrues to every customer that uses AMD. So it is a special time, it's a special place, and it's an opportunity for us to supersize what was already a fantastic.
Before we end this, I promise you to walk through the valuations of AMD quite fast and how this might change up a thing or two. So the market cap at the moment is about $350 billion. So this $275 billion here is wrong. But yeah, the other key metrics here is correct. So what we want to see is that the valuations in the metrics here, like price per sales, etc., getting better. So if we have the same type of valuation, for example, the same price per sale of 9, and the revenues go up, and people are still willing to pay 9.36 times the sales of the company, then the market cap will go up going forward. What I really want is AMD to be seen as a safe long-term play and a leader in the AI market. If we get to that point, maybe people are willing to pay 15 times through sales for the company. And if that happens, we will have a double yam, a boost from the revenue, and also a boost that people are willing to pay more premium for this stock than they are at the moment. So, for example, Nvidia has a lot higher price through sales that people are willing to pay for the company that AMD has. So, if we can close in through that, that is also a very positive thing. And if you watch the latest 12 months revenue of AMD, that's $34.6 billion. The deal we had now, I think Lisa Su said 5 years, 4 to 5 years, and the revenue from the deal probably between 60 to 100 billion dollars. So let's say 100 billion dollars, the upper echelon of the deal. In that case, we will have 20 billion dollars every year coming in revenue. And if you see a whole year of revenue from AMD at the moment, a whole year, that's 34.6 billion dollars, and this is like more than half of that revenue. This is why this deal is so big, and people just underestimate how much this will affect the company going forward. This is also these type of deals and deployments that has really pushed Nvidia's stock price sky high. People underestimate how few companies that are really pushing the revenues to the high levels that Nvidia has, for example. So add that $20 billion per year. That's then we are up to $55 billion in revenue every year. Add $20 billion every year from the OpenAI deal. Then we are up to $74 billion every year recurring revenue for AMD. Also add that we had in the latest quarter in revenues quarterly here $10.3 billion. I think the next quarter is around $10 billion. So we are probably at the starting place, not $34 billion. We are a starting place around $40 billion. So $40 billion plus $20 billion plus $20 billion. That's about $80 billion in recurring revenue. If we add this statistic here, 9.36 sales, then we can say that 9.36x, and now we said at least $80 billion in revenue, then the market cap will be $648.8 billion. And at the moment, we had $350 billion. So, or 348 or something like that. So this means the stock gains everything equal, and just the company is valuated the same way, a gain of 150%. That's interesting. And if we can just get the price through sales valuation a bit more juicy, this might be a 200% increase in stock price. There are no guarantees. This is just me analyzing YouTube and trying to explain to you how I think when I invest long term. And the scale of the revenue gains here are so big that people have a hard time to really get a feel for it. Obviously, the company will be a bit diluted, 10% long term from each of the deal, but I think that will not affect too much the valuation here. So you have to like maybe remove a bit of how much of the company you earn if you invest in ownership in shares directly. But also taking that to account, I still feel like we have a massive gains going forward. And that is just the deals. I feel and think that the rest of the offering with the MI455X and MI430X GPUs deployments and the other type of deals they have with, for example, Sony PlayStation going forward, like 2028 to 2029, when they will deploy the next generation PlayStation, with a Steam machine that are supposedly going out there quite soon. a lot of AMD hardware inside that, and also the new Xbox coming probably autumn of 2027 will have a lot of upcoming revenue gains and steady cash flow going into the company. So we will probably not have a baseline of $40 billion. All of the revenue, CPUs, GPUs, and deals with other companies, like the deal with HPE we had with the new GPUs, and the deals with OpenAI. I meant OpenAI already told about the deal with Oracle, and also the deals they already have with Microsoft. And adding on that, probably long term, the baseline is higher than $40 billion. I think we also will have like 30 to 40% gains on the $40 billion every year. So add at least like $8 billion there. We have 50, maybe $90 billion. So that is why I feel like this could be a really compounder in the coming years. And I feel like I can see this company going to $2-3 trillion very, very long term. And if this company just add 30% every year in gains into the stock price, I feel like that is a very, very good investment. You're lucky if your overall performance on your portfolio every year is like 10 to 15%. That will make you very rich long term. So if you can have specific stocks that can add 30, 40% every year over time, you are very, very lucky. And I feel like AMD really has that potential. You can never be certain what happens. Some of the deals might be reversed or not fully deployed because AMD did not execute on what they promised here. They may not start to innovate slower. Maybe other companies come with something really revolutionizing. But I felt like lately that of all the AI companies, the one company that has really improved their products most in terms of innovation and keeping up with Nvidia, which is almost impossible, that's AMD. A lot of the other companies, AI companies that has massive gains in the stock market, for example, Micron or Broadcom, etc., they are using their scale and their positioning to gain market share. But I feel like the true gains and the gains I like to support are the companies that are really innovative in their offering. And while Micron are earning because they are the only one that has the production facilities and can control the supply and demand of the membership, AMD are really competing at the highest level with Nvidia in terms of innovation and going for on a similar base like they did with Intel in the CPU market. They are doing something almost impossible, and I feel like I want to be there and support them. And I also think that the market need cheaper GPUs, cheaper CPUs, and a long term, this is good for society as a whole, because if AI are coming into society, we want it to be at least cheap enough so inflation are not getting too high. We want everyday people to get more for the money. We don't want the AI to really add to that inflation. We want probably a deflationary pressure from the innovation that AI can mean. And I think AMD can be a part of that structure in the future. So for me, this is very important, not just for AMD, also for the world potentially. So that's a bigger take, but yeah, that's what I like to talk about. And if you enjoyed today, just come back to another video. I update weekly and want to stay sharp and build a community together. So thank you so much for tuning in and have a wonderful day.